After World War II, Germany was a broken landscape, a nation divided under the thumb of the conquering superpowers. Berlin, though squarely under Soviet control, was a city cleaved in two. The western sectors, backed by the Americans, the British and the French, began to heal wounds and rebuild under the promise of capitalism and democracy. Meanwhile, the so-called German Democratic Republic, the GDR under Soviet rule, struggled to find its footing. The difference was undeniable. East Berlin languished with shortages of goods and a stifling political climate. In contrast, the West thrived. This wasn't just ideology clashing, it was quality of life on display. Skilled workers, young people, the best and brightest, they voted with their feet, fleeing the GDR for a taste of Western prosperity. By 1961, nearly 3.5 million East Germans, a staggering 20% of the population, had slipped away. This was a hemorrhage of talent and manpower the GDR simply couldn't sustain. "We closed the border because everyone was running away," recalls an elderly Berliner, the pain still raw decades later. "Families were ripped in two. My cousin got out just in time. I never saw her again." East German leaders like Walter Ulbricht grew desperate, petitioning Moscow for solutions. Nikita Khrushchev, the fiery Soviet premier, had his own worries. The embarrassing flow of refugees from East Germany was a direct insult to communist ideals, a blow to his prestige. Worse yet, it made him look weak in the eyes of his rivals. The solution, as brutal as it was, would change Berlin and the world. Officially, the GDR called it the Anti-Fascist Protection Rampart, a shield against Western sabotage. But the hastily erected barbed wire and cinder blocks told a different story. This wall wasn't about keeping the world out, it was a prison meant to keep East Germans in. The illusion of a workers' paradise crumbled as the Stasi secret police tightened their grip and whispered dissent became far too dangerous. Khrushchev likely hoped the wall would become a grudgingly accepted reality, a line on a map that would stave off wider conflict. Instead, it became a testament to the Cold War, a chilling reminder the lengths those in power will go to in order to maintain their rigid control. The Berlin Wall wasn't built in a vacuum. To truly understand the why, we need to grasp the Soviets' mindset in the rapidly escalating Cold War. Khrushchev, while a shrewd politician, wasn't operating from a position of strength. Imagine the Eastern Bloc, the Soviet sphere of influence, as a chain of dominoes. East Germany, the GDR, was a crucial link. If it collapsed due to the non-stop refugee crisis, others might follow. Hungary's 1956 uprising, brutally crushed by Soviet tanks, was a stark reminder of the instability within their own sphere. Khrushchev couldn't stomach the idea of another rebellion, especially in such a key location as East Germany. The wall, as desperate a measure as it was, became a matter of self-preservation for the Soviet system. It was a signal to satellite states that dissent wouldn't be tolerated. And it wasn't just for show. The GDR leadership, backed by Moscow, would enforce their control with grim ruthlessness. The Stasi, East Germany's secret police, became the invisible hand behind the Iron Curtain. Neighbors were encouraged to inform on neighbors, creating a climate of constant fear and distrust. The goal was to crush any hopes of escape and, more importantly, extinguish any spark of rebellion that might endanger the regime's grip on power. The wall wasn't just meant to keep people in, but to shape and control their minds. Beyond internal politics, Khrushchev had a reputation to protect. The USSR was meant to be the workers' paradise, superior to the decadent West. East Germans fleeing in droves made a mockery of this claim. He needed to demonstrate strength to maintain the illusion of communist superiority, both for the world stage and to appease hardliners within his own party. The wall, however monstrous, became a symbol of his resolve, a grim way of holding back the tide of history. The early 1960s were a powder keg moment in the Cold War. Tensions, always simmering, had reached a boiling point. John F. Kennedy's election as U.S. President in 1960 signaled a tougher American stance towards the Soviets. His famous Ich bin ein Berliner speech, delivered in sight of the wall in 1963, was a rallying cry for freedom, a direct challenge to Khrushchev. The The Soviet leader feared JFK's youthful vigor and unwavering anti-communist rhetoric would embolden the West to take greater risks. Yet there was a dangerous paradox. The Berlin Wall, while a brutal act against the German people, might have actually helped avert a wider conflict. It clarified in terrifying concrete where the lines of division lay. Western powers condemned the wall, but ultimately recognized that attacking it would likely trigger World War III, something neither side could stomach in the nuclear age. A chilling stalemate settled over Berlin. East and West German soldiers faced each other across this monstrous divide, with the armies of the superpowers lurking just behind them. Any miscalculation, any incident could have spiraled into disaster. Yet in a strange way, the wall's ugliness helped define the rules of the Cold War, however precarious those rules might be. Berlin became a painful but relatively stable point in an otherwise chaotic world. The wall ultimately was a symbol of the Cold War's absurdity. A city, a people, and an entire ideology sliced in half. It embodied the struggle between human freedom and totalitarian control, between individual aspiration and a crushing, unyielding state. And while its eventual fall in 1989 was a moment of joyous triumph, the scars it left on Berlin, Germany, and the world stage are reminders of the dark places fear and the lust for power can lead. In 1989, scenes of jubilation filled our screens as the Berlin Wall, that hated symbol of oppression, was torn down by an overjoyed populace. The fall of the wall felt like the beginning of a new era, the triumph of hope over division. But the wall's legacy lingers even decades later. Today, remnants of the wall stand as stark memorials. They remind us of those who perished trying to cross, of the families shattered, of the dreams deferred under its shadow. Yet they also stand as reminders of the resilience of the human spirit, of the unstoppable desire for freedom that brought those concrete barriers down. The Berlin Wall forces us to confront uncomfortable questions that resonate far beyond Germany and the Cold War. Where are the walls, visible and invisible, still being built today? What lines are drawn to divide us based on nationality, ideology, or even simple fear of the other? Can such walls, built on repression, truly hold back the tide of change forever? The answers aren't simple, but by looking back at the Berlin Wall, we are forced to look within ourselves. The wall challenges us to strive for a world where freedom prevails, where human connection bridges any forced divides. If you found this journey into history thought-provoking, show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel for more explorations of the past that illuminate our present.